Discovering possibilities and potential with passion every day. This is a TPPN production. Welcome to the iPad Possibilities Podcast, episode number 69, High-End Audio Possibilities. Well, welcome, and today is the long-awaited episode that I've been wanting to sit down and record for a very long time on the high-end audio possibilities, some of the more complicated applications and the more powerful applications available for the iPad to do audio work on, and that is what today's show is really going to be all about. I've got an interview that I did, I think, months ago. I'm very glad to have that finally released. And he works with the Baby Docs application. He's a DJ, so that'll be later on in the show today. And before we get to all that, I wanted to follow up on some things we talked about on episode 68 on optical audio. My pick, Pizziz, I contacted the developer, and evidently they did not renew their developer account quick enough, and they kind of left it to the last minute, so the apps were pulled. So I contacted them, and the apps are now starting to appear back on the App Store, and everything should be up by, a couple days here. Hopefully today everything will be up, so you can purchase Pizziz and both the Sleep and the Energizer version. And that's what happened there, and I guess they faxed the payment or whatever to them, and they just didn't get it or whatever. So I'm glad to see that is all up and running. And then as regards to the 5.1 audio, I did another test I wanted to share with you today. This is kind of especially pertinent as we're talking about audio today. iTunes, you're able to download and rent movies on your iPad. Now, the newer movies advertise 5.1 Dolby Digital on the iPad itself. They advertise, if you rent this movie on the iPad, you will be getting 5.1 Dolby Digital Surround. And that's what it advertises. If you look at the older movies, it doesn't say that. The newer movies, so I rented a newer movie and said it gives me 5.1 Dolby Digital when I download it. I downloaded this movie. It was one of the dollar rentals. And I went to the movie once it downloaded, and oddly enough, it said stereo. It gave me the audio options, and it just had stereo listed. So I'm thinking Apple needs to kind of adjust their advertising here with the iPad and its regards to audio, because it's possible to have optical audio on the iPad now, and it would be possible to play that back if Apple would allow it in their operating system. So I think that's a problem. So it's currently possible to download movies off iTunes and rent them entirely on the iPad, and it advertises 5.1, but currently Apple limits that. So that's been bugging me a little bit, but it still gives great sounding audio out of the iPad, but it is stereo, unfortunately. With that being said, I wanted to announce a brand new podcast that I think a lot of the iPad Possibilities listeners would appreciate listening to, and it is called the iPod Possibilities Podcast. So I've been thinking over starting one on the iPhone or one of the smaller Apple devices, as I have some of those, and I enjoy those, and I see great potential out of those devices. And there's so many iPhone podcasts out there. There's just a bunch of them. And I was looking through the iTunes store for podcasts on the iPod Touch, and I did not find any. I found today in iOS or whatever, I found a lot of iPhone podcasts that cover the iPod, but the focus has always been on the iPhone. So I thought, let's turn the tables here and let's do a podcast that focuses instead on the iPod Touch. And that's going to be the main focus of this new podcast, a podcast focused on the iPod. And I'll also be talking about possibilities that are opened up to the iPod Nano, the Classic, the Shuffle, as well as the Apple TV. I think this will really be the year of the iPod. We'll see an iPod Touch with some amazing video capabilities and some just amazing enhancements. We will see, I believe, an Apple TV that is totally revamped, totally redone, and I believe it will have iOS on it. And I think those two platforms, the Apple TV and iPod Touch, will just explode this year. I believe this will be the year of the iPod, and those two platforms will be huge, and I think it'd be great to start this show up before all of those explosions start to take place in September next month or so. So that show is launching. It'll be a weekly show. Every Wednesday, you can catch that show at tppn.tv. It'll be in iTunes soon. And the first introduction show will be posted by the time you listen to this. It'll be a 10-minute episode simply explaining the purpose of the show and kind of just introducing what that show is all about. But after that, it'll be a longer form show, I hope, and I hope to have you guys listen to that show as well, and I'd love to hear your thoughts and what you see as iPod possibilities. So with that said, we're done with the news and kind of introduction stuff for this show, and I'd like to move on to the main topic of today, and that is high-end audio possibilities. So the first section of high-end audio possibilities are those of audio editors, and these are something that I have been looking for a while on the iPad. I've been looking for things that I could use to get rid of my need of GarageBand on the Mac, and I've not found a replacement yet, but I found a couple apps that are pretty powerful. The first is called Reforge, and this app, as well as many others I'll discuss today, includes a feature called audio copy and audio paste functionality. This gives you the ability to copy and paste audio from one app to another that supports this. And Reforge is a single line audio editor, so it can't do more than one track, but it does one track extremely well for just simply editing audio, putting filters through it, balancing the stereo, and just doing all sorts of different audio effects to the sound. It's not a full-out GarageBand replacement, but it's a nice app that gives you waveform editing in an iPad optimized way. So it's called Reforge. It's a wonderful little application to have. And another one that kind of goes along with this is called Studio Track. And Studio Track takes Reforge and does it to another level, but leaves some stuff out. So Studio Track has a very similar interface to what you're used to on the iPad. That of the launch screen where you have your different projects, similar to what the Omni Group's been doing with their OmniGraffle apps, similar to what Apple's been doing with their iWork apps. And you simply launch up your new project, you slide to record, and you are recording your audio. And you can have up to 8 to 10 tracks, I believe. So this is a multi-track product where you're able to work with multiple tracks at the same time. And you're able to put different effects on each track, and you're able to do all the adjusting there as far as left or right panning and things like that. You're able to mute certain tracks, and it's got quite a powerful set of features. You're able to adjust the master track as well, kind of similar to GarageBand. But the lacking thing here is it's missing waveform editing. There is currently no way to use this as a GarageBand replacement. And that is what I'm really looking after, really looking forward to. I believe the iPad is capable. I believe its 1 gigahertz chip is fast enough to do audio work. And I believe GarageBand would be a killer app for the iPad. And the closest thing I've seen to it is an iPhone app. They have not developed an iPad app yet. It's called Monlay. And Monlay stands for Non-Linear Audio Editor. So that's what it kind of stands for. It's a non-linear audio editor for the iPhone and iPod Touch. And it looks very much like a GarageBand for the iPhone. You have up to 4 different tracks that you're able to. It looks like you're editing in a GarageBand type style, but it's touch-based. You're able to record your sound there. You're able to add in your own loops and things like that. So this looks like something I could use as a GarageBand replacement for the iPad once they develop for iPad. I don't think it's going to be ready with its current version upscaled. It may work well. I have not tried, but I think this is the beginning of something really, really cool, really amazing. It's Monle, Monle, and I'm excited. I'm excited to where this will go. I'm excited to see, hey, will they develop this for the iPad? Will it be an 8-track nonlinear editor? Will I be able to produce my podcast on the iPad? Right now, I can't do it. And it's entirely based on software. I don't have the apps for it. There aren't the correct apps for me to produce this show on. I'd love to see a GarageBand-like app for the iPad. And this is the closest I have seen. And I think we're getting close. We're on the verge of getting there, but we're not there yet. So Monle is the closest thing I've seen. And the other apps just don't cut it for what I'm looking for in an audio editor. So if application developers are out there, there is a huge market, I think, for Pro Logic, GarageBand type apps for the iPad. I think with all the audio stuff going on, I think there is a huge market for this, and I'd love to see some developers start to get to work on these apps right away. The next set of apps are loops and drum machines. So loops are pretty common among different, audio type things. And the first one I wanted to talk about is called Looptastic HD. And this is the good one. This is the one to check out for most of what you'll need. Looptastic HD is an application that comes preloaded with just hundreds of different loops, not hundreds of different styles, but it's got lots of different loops, lots of different styles. You're able to buy different loops for download right within the app. And I have to say, it's a pretty fantastic way to, create a loop song. So the concept here is you have all your loops and you drag and drop them into kind of the timeline here for your audio. And you're able to put effects on those loops. You're able to change the volume and all of those different things. You're able to change the tempo. And it's just a fantastic way to do loops. You're actually able to record loops within this program as well and add that to your loop library. So if you have loops on your Mac, you can probably just record those through the mic or camera connection kit, and that'd be a great way to do that. So I think it's pretty fantastic how you're able to just drag and drop your loops where you want them, order them. You're able to change, the range of the loop, make it sound higher or lower, and just lots of different things that make this a fantastic program for those that are looking to work with loops. And they have an iPhone version. I believe they work together in some way. I haven't looked into how well they work together, but it's a great app that, if you're looking for loops, is a wonderful way to work with them on the iPad. Now, the next app is iSequencer. And this one, or iSequence, I wasn't sure whether to include this on this episode or the one before, but I decided to include with this one. So the basic premise here is you have a keyboard here on the bottom of the screen, and you basically record a loop, and you're able to add that to your project. So you're basically creating your own loops on the iPad. And I believe they have some different patterns that you can throw in there as well. But it's an incredibly nice app. They've got different instruments that you can use to play back, and you're able to gliss and do other things. But iSequence is a nice little app. They have a built-in shop here, similar to Looptastic HD, to add more loops and things like that. And you're able to clone different parts of your song. You're able to have it's got a full-out mixer for 8 different tracks, which is very nice to have with 3D delay, both A and B, and it's got different filters. You're able to solo and mute different things, and it looks like it's just a very powerful app that I've had a little bit of time to play with, and it's just a wonderful interface, very iPad-like. It doesn't feel like it was rushed out the door or anything like that, and I've rather enjoyed using it. The next one in this loop category is Bleepbox. So Bleepbox is it's a mixed bag as far as what I feel about it. It's very this app falls into the category of apps that I feel it doesn't quite grasp the concept of an iPad. And just the interface, it feels like a desktop app to me. It's of course touch based, but all the interface stuff, it feels touch based. It really does. And that's a problem. I mean, it doesn't feel touch based. It feels desktop based. And that's where the problem lies. I think a lot of these high-end audio apps are having a problem figuring out the iPad interface to make it for the iPad and to make it understandable by even the common users. I think it's a problem that many of these apps are encountering is the user interface is just too difficult for many people to understand. Now, I've been able to understand the interface, but I think I could not give this app a general recommendation unless you're a true audio fanatic and want to spend the time to learn the application. And that is the main problem, I think, of this app. Otherwise, it is a very, very powerful app that I would highly recommend to audio professionals, but to audio amateurs, not as much. So that's Bleepbox, and it's a wonderful app if you're in the market for one of the more higher-end apps. And I've got two more that fall into this category here of just different loop machines and drum machines and all that kind of stuff. And the next one is pattern music. And this one is very cool. Basically, you have different patterns that you just rearrange, and it's basically a different, it's like a live performance, basically. You drag around the patterns on this black screen, and it's a wonderful way to create your own patterns, your own music that way. And I've been thoroughly enjoying this app, and I think it has great potential for the future. And I think this is an app that kids would understand. I think you could give this app to a kid and they would understand how to create pattern music. And that's a cool thing. That's pretty amazing that kids will be able to understand how to make music with patterns. And that's another wonderful way to use this application. So it's a wonderful app, and it's very simple, though. That's one thing that's very simple, which is a good thing, I think, in many circumstances, as this one is. So that's called Pattern Music. And the final app is called Beatwave. So Beatwave is another app that is very much live performance. So you basically have this grid, and you fill in the parts that you want to be played. So you can see just a line go across, and it plays those sounds as you're live editing it. And you can have different sounds, different colors, different controls, different tempos, different tones. And this has been my favorite of the apps so far with the loops. And it's called Beatwave. And this is my absolute favorite. If you're going to get one app, to do loops, this would be the app to get, Beatwave. Because it is such a great interface, you can do live performance very easily with it. And it's just a fun app to play with, a fun app to experience. And that would be my recommendation if you're going to get a loop app. So it's called Beatwave, and I'm not sure on pricing of these apps. They do change quite frequently in the App Store. So that rounds up the loop apps. And with that said, let's move on to the next section of apps. And those are the DJ apps. So I have three apps that fall in this DJ category. And those are Sonorous Rex, Tremor, and Baby Docs. So let's start with Sonorous Rex. So Sonorous Rex is, as I said, it's a DJ app. And the interface it's similar to Bleepbox. I think it was designed for real professionals, right? So it's not the easiest to understand interface. It took me, I think, about 10 minutes to fully grasp how to use this application. Some nice features of it, it does give you your time and battery on the screen, because it does get rid of your top title bar up top here. And all access to that kind of information. It gives you that as well. So you're able to have two tape decks, tape deck A and B. You're able to go in and out with getting audio up and down and changing the highs, the mids, the lows on each of them. You're able to dampen. You're able to change the reverb effects. And the real problem I had was loading these tape decks. They had some preloaded stuff, but the user tracks, I found it hard to add my own material into here. I'm sure there's a way to do it, but it was not simple. It was not easy to understand how to do that. And I think that's a problem of this app. But otherwise, it is a wonderful app if you're a DJ that needs to go back and forth between different tracks to do that. Now, one problem that DJs are experiencing with the iPad is they need to listen to stuff before it's playing on the iPad and live so they can get a feel of what the song's like. So that's something that is not solved by this app, and I'm not sure if any of the other apps were able to solve this problem. And that's kind of a problem somebody's going to have to figure out how to solve. And the next app is Tremor. And Tremor is a 4-track audio DJ player. So this one looks very much like you're behind a record booth. You have your 4 records here that you can twist and turn just like you would on a regular record to do the screeching and all that kind of stuff. You can change the volume level very easily. This was a very easy to understand interface, unlike the last app. And you just drag and drop the little spindle on top of it when you want to start playing stuff. And it comes preloaded with different sounds, but you're able to select an audio source such as the mic. So you could actually turn on the mic as the audio source for one of those. So if you're a DJ and you need to share some stuff with yourself talking, I think DJs do that quite a bit. You can actually have your mic as a source. You can search your local home library and go on the net to grab things. And that's a cool thing. So the real great thing about Tremor is the audio sources. You can have yourself as an audio source. You can have music you download online, stuff from your home network, and I think there's some preloaded material as well for this app. So this one is a fantastic app for audio DJing. It's called Tremor, and the real killer feature here, as I said, is the voice input as one of your 4 tracks. So that's one of the killer features, and just the user interface is just dead simple, and I think anyone could easily figure out how to use this and become a DJ by themselves. I think it's the best user interface I've seen for a DJ app, and my personal recommendation of the 3 I'm reviewing today. But with that said, Baby Docs is a fantastic app. It really is. The interface is wonderful. The graphics is the only thing I think need improvement. That's what makes it not as good as Tremor, is the graphics. They are very 2D, very old school looking, which I think may be what they're going after, that old school look and feel. But you're giving 2 tracks that you're able to just grab the records as the last app and screech them and all that kind of stuff. And you're able to adjust the pitch level, left or right, to pan, all those different things. And that's a wonderful thing. And you're able to load the songs up with different inputs, different sources for audio. And that's a wonderful thing. It did take me a little while to figure out how to get the audio in there, but it did work quite well once I figured it out. So, very great app for DJs. And that kind of rounds up the DJ discussion here. But with that said, I would like to play back now an interview I had with a DJ who helped develop Baby Docs. So I'll play that for you right now, and I think you'll get a lot from it as it pertains to the iPad and all these audio apps with the future of the iPad. So here we go with the interview. Well, I'm here today with Luke Dubs. How are you doing today, Luke?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Just sipping on my Earl Grey tea, relaxing in Berlin.
Awesome. Yeah. It's in the afternoon over there. It's just morning over here in America. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I'm a musician of about 10 or so years. I normally reside in Sydney, Australia. And I've been a piano player been playing the piano for about 20 years, and I studied music at university at a place called the Australian Institute of Music in Sydney. And as of about the last 15 years, I've been into music production. I started when I was 15 with a an Atari ST and a Yamaha SY22 keyboard, and then kind of grew from there. And I guess probably about 10 years ago started releasing records in Australia and abroad, doing kind of instrumental hip hop and just generally kind of in the hip hop scene, I guess you could say, and electronic music scene. And I've been affiliated with an indie record label in Australia called Elephant Tracks for most of that 10 years, and I produced for a group called Hermitude. It was my kind of main group back home, and also help out with a lot of the other acts on the label. And as of recently, I've hooked up with the Async boys to do Flare Scratch and Baby Decks, and kind of fulfill that dream that we once had of making really cool software back in the day. I went to school with those boys, and we've been close friends for many years. And I've only just recently kind of gone into this next chapter of making music apps, DJ music apps. It's a lot of fun.
Very cool. Being international, have you guys had a chance to get your hands on an iPad yet?
No, unfortunately, it's we haven't, because we're all in different countries. I'm normally in Australia. Eddie Sledge is in Australia as well. He's in the Blue Mountains, and RF is in Italy. And so we haven't had a chance to get iPads yet, which is really frustrating and quite difficult when trying to develop software for them. But you just kind of have to work with the simulators and get it all going on that way. But this weekend I'm in line.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I've heard they've sold out their second batch already, so they're just flying off the shelves for the online pre-orders and everything.
Pretty nuts. Like, it was supposed to come out a month earlier in Europe and Australia, but because of the massive demand in the States, they put it back another month. So we've been eagerly awaiting.
Yeah, it seems like demand's even greater than it was with the original iPhone, because I remember, at least in the States, the original iPhone, 2 or 3 weeks after it came out, even probably a week after it came out, you could just go to any Apple store and pick it up, and that's not the case even in America with the iPad. It's very hard to just go to a retail store and pick them up, so I guess that's a good problem.
Yeah, totally. I'm sure Apple are pretty stoked.
So, could you just kind of give us an overview of the different applications you guys have developed for the iPad and even the iPhone?
Sure. We've got 3 applications out at the moment. The first app that we released in around August last year is called Flare Scratch, and Flare was kind of the beginning for us in terms of, I guess, realizing what we could do with DJ apps for the iPhone. Like, the first version was pretty basic, and just had like the kind of fundamental, I guess, tools that you needed to kind of to start scratching on your iPhone, and we've slowly developed it kind of from there, and just realized, I guess, kind of got to know the iPhone a bit better, what it's kind of capable of, and what we can do within those kind of boundaries. And then since then, we moved on to Baby Scratch, which was always intended to be a light version of Flare, just for people that, perhaps just wanted to have a bit of fun, and was always curious about what it sounds like, and what it sounds like to scratch. Hang on, I'll just hang up that phone. Sorry. Hello. Hey, I'm kind of doing an interview. Do you mind if I call you back? Sorry about that, man.
Oh, that's all right.
Bad timing. Yeah, sorry. So we went on to Baby Scratch, and that was a light version, something, a bit kind of a bit more of a fun interface, and something that will kind of be a bit more accessible, I guess, because it's a little bit easier, I guess, to use, and it's just the simple version of Flare, and then Baby Decks on the iPad, which we're kind of really eager and keen about because the iPad is definitely. I'm pretty excited about the possibilities of what it can be used for in terms of DJing and music making in general. So that's kind of the beginning of the kind of long road, I guess, of tools that can change the way music is made.
Sure. Now, I forget in your background, did you mention, are you a DJ yourself, or?
Yeah, I am. I'm the
What
DJ.
kind of, okay, what kind of tools do DJs depend on as they go from gig to gig?
Well, it's changed a lot over the last few years. I mean, it started off when I first started DJing. It was all about vinyl, and everyone was a purist. Well, I guess more so in the hip hop circles, it was always about having real having vinyl, having wax, and it being you couldn't use CDs or whatever. Like CDJs were around, which are obviously DJing on CDs. But, I don't know, the purist hip hop DJs were always like, no, it's got to be vinyl. So that was how it was when I first came into the scene, and then, of course, with the whole digital DJing revolution, things have completely changed with programs like Serato, Scratch Live, and Tractor, and Virtual DJ, and there's a whole bunch of them now. So now digital DJing has just kind of exploded because you buy this software for your computer and and the hardware as well, if necessary. There's usually a piece of hardware involved with these programs, and you can DJ any sounds whatsoever that's on your laptop. So in one way, I think it's fantastic because it just allows, for example, in other groups that I'm in back home in Australia, that we play our original music, and we're able to DJ our original music on vinyl because it's all just files on our laptop, and we can mix it like we would mix a DJ set with turntables and pitch match it and all that kind of thing. And I think it's also had a bit of a detrimental effect on vinyl itself and record sales, as in a lot of record companies aren't pressing vinyl anymore because it's not as lucrative as it once was. A lot of record companies take a loss, unfortunately, on pressing vinyl just because it's not being bought as much now that Serato and all those other apps are around. But it will always. I don't think it's a really bad thing. Like, I think vinyl will always be pressed because its sound quality is superior at the end of the day. It's not going to be. It's always going to sound the best. It will always sound better than. Well, it might always sound better. Who knows? Maybe we're going to head into a new area where digital DJing becomes of a higher sound quality. But I think we might be a while off that. Yeah. So the tools that I use when I'm DJing now is most of the time I use Serato, basically Serato Scratch Live. I have a little box that you just take and you plug into the mixer wherever club you're at. That hooks into your laptop, and you have two time-coded vinyls which basically send out a frequency which the program, which Serato reads, and then that basically links in. So whenever I manipulate the vinyl with my hand and scratch, the sound file on the computer gets manipulated as a real record would, and the latency is next to nothing. The sound quality is pretty damn good. Depending on, you can use MP3s, you can use WAV files or whatever you have, and so yeah, that's pretty much what bigger than a DJing rig these days.
Okay, very cool. I'm kind of curious when you guys get your hands on iPads. Do you see the tools and your laptop being replaced by the iPad one day, or?
Hopefully. I mean, I think it's like, everyone is picky about what pieces of equipment they use. But, I mean, the goal for us definitely with Baby Decks for the iPad is to, I want to be confident enough to put it in my backpack and roll up to a gig knowing that there's, I don't have any turntables, I don't have any mixer. I basically got Baby Decks on my iPad. I'll just roll up. I'll have all my music in there, and just rock a set basically using just that. Just plug into the speakers and off I go. So I think it will. I think it can definitely reach that level. The iPad has its downside, just audio-wise, with the fact that it only has one audio output, which is a mini jack output, which makes it difficult for a lot of DJing apps, just because you need another channel to monitor what you're mixing with DJing. You have your headphones on, and then you have the output of the actual audio signal, which goes to the speakers. And the iPad only having one output, everyone's kind of looking at ways or has come up with ways to get around that. There's a lot of other apps that do the split mono thing, so you can actually split the channel in two, and you can have a monitoring channel and an output. Excuse me, but it means the output's only in mono, which is kind of not great. It's not ideal, but it's a start, I guess. And then there's apps coming up with visual style of mixing, so that you actually kind of mix looking at waveforms on the screen and that kind of thing. So I think the whole audio out thing also is something that is helping to push these apps in a direction that is changing the way DJs can mix and opening up new possibilities, which I'm excited about. But and then there's also talk of third-party developers releasing USB audio output things as well, which I need to look into a bit more. But apparently you can assign multiple outs and ins for your iPad using these USB plugs or docks or whatever you want to call them. So yeah, definitely, I think hopefully in the extremely close future, I'm going to be rocking DJ sets on my iPad at the club.
Very cool. Yeah, I've got the camera connection kit that does the USB audio stuff, and I use it actually to record from my USB mic, and it works great that way. I'm kind of curious, USB mixers and things like that. Would that be something that DJs would find useful, I would imagine?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if there was definitely a company that would make a good one, like that would kind of take it on. But I think it's so early days for the iPad, even for the iPhone in a way. It has been out for a couple of years, but I think only in the last 6 months have we seen a lot of apps that are really starting to utilize what it can do. And I think for the iPad, it's a bit of a bigger deal, and the possibilities are a little bit bigger, just because of the fact that it's got a more processing front and 10-finger multi-touch. I think a lot of people are going to be watching closely to see what developers come up with and to see what kind of possibilities there actually are for it. And I'm sure there'll come a time where everyone starts to kind of get on board and helps to kind of push it as far as it can be pushed.
Sure. One thing I think is pretty cool is, since you know that USB audio, you can actually get 5.1 out of it if you have a speaker set, USB speakers that work with it. I think that's kind of exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome if you're sitting there watching a movie on your iPad and you hook it into your 5.1 Dolby setup or whatever, and you get blasted by incredible audio. That'd be amazing.
audio really does make a lot of movies. I mean, so that's kind of a cool possibility that's around just because of that kind of loophole that exists through that
Yeah,
dongle.
definitely. Yeah, for sure.
Well, do you have any final thoughts before we uh, end today?
Um, I guess just yeah, it's just stay tuned. I suppose like it's early days for the iPad. And it's still really early days for us. Async is there's only three guys. It's myself and RF and Eddie Sledge, and we're just three guys from the Blue Mountains in Australia that have kind of really, who are really keen just to kind of make some really good software for this thing. So I think over the next couple of years, for us and for everyone else and for the iPad itself, it's going to be an exciting time. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what other people come up with and to open my mind about the possibilities of how I can approach DJing and how I can approach writing music on this thing, because I think there's a lot of good things in store.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Well, where can people actually find you and your applications that you've helped develop?
Sure, you can find us obviously on the App Store. Just look for Baby Scratch or Flare Scratch or Baby X DJ, and you can also check us out on our website, which has all the information and instructions and videos about our apps on async-games.com.
Okay, very cool. Well, thank you again for your time. This is very interesting to me because I'm a musician, but I've never entered the DJ world at all, and it's kind of a different viewpoint from that which I've been studying for 4 years to just get done with college. So thanks again for your time.
No problem, Tim. Thanks.
Cool. Thank you. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
So that was the interview I had with Luke Dubs. You can check out his application at Baby Docs in the App Store. So with that said, let's get on to the final set of applications for the iPad as far as high-end audio that I've discovered so far. And the first one is called SPL Meter, and these are kind of just a mixed bag of different things. So SPL Meter is a metering app that just basically takes the audio that you're getting and gives you the decibels about how everything's coming out, and it looks very much like an SPL meter. That's exactly what it's doing. It's showing me how many decibels I'm using right now. You're able to adjust the range of the decibels so it doesn't pick up everything. You're able to clip things, and it's a great little application if you're looking to check the decibel level in a given room. So that's SPL meter. The next one is called Tricks Mix. So Tricks Mix is an application, and it's designed to work with Pro Tools and different applications like that. So what it's designed for is a portable surface control. So instead of the old mixer boards, you can now use your iPad as the new mixer board. And that's something very cool that we just haven't had before, because we haven't had the screen real estate to be able to do something like this. And it's worked extremely well in my testing with, I had a demo copy of Pro Tools I installed and different things like that. But it's worked great as far as adjusting the levels. You're able to assign it to different parts of the software you're working with on your Mac. And it's a wonderful application that just replaces the need for this expensive hardware. The iPad is now your mixing board for your Mac. And that's a very cool thing to have. So it's called Tricks Mix. And it's a wonderful app. It's actually Tricks Mix 2. So if you're looking for a mixing board app, that's a wonderful place to go. And the next two apps, the first one I have here is Sunvox. So Sunvox is a pretty cool looking app. It's, pretty cool looking as far as it looks very old school. It looks very 1990s as far as the graphics and everything. But as far as what you do with it is you basically have different synth generators that you're able to play back on. So it basically emulates an old school instrument that it sounds kind of cool. And if you're into Sunvoxes, this is an app to check out. But if you're not really into Sunvoxes and that whole instrument or whatever, I would, stay away from it. It's not the best app. As far as interface, I think if they update the interface, it would be a big win. But currently I'm seeing like a mouse on this application. On one of their icons, you don't actually have a mouse. But, the interface is not the best. I think if they improved that, it would be a total win and a definite recommendation. So the next app I have here, the final app of the day, I'll have one more after this. So this is the last app of the day. Sorry, is Audio Tools. So Audio Tools is as it sounds. It's a application with a bunch of different tools. So it has SPL meter, it has acoustical analyzing tools, so RTA analyzers, and then you're able to purchase fast Fourier, transform energy, time curve, impulse response. So it's got a lot of built-in stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that you have to buy as well. So it's got audio scope, and that's a very cool thing. So I'm seeing my audio scope right now, and I've got the levels. So this kind of replaces the need for the SPL meter. You're able to do speaker tests. There's just all sorts of monitoring, microscope monitoring to see your levels, audio calculators. You're able to record audio files directly in here. So if you're looking for a one-stop shop as far as audio tools, this is a great app. It's called Audio Tools, and it's got a bunch of different apps. There's some in-app purchases, but there's a great deal of just comes with the app, and it simply works. Beautiful interface, great, powerful application for those that need to analyze, record, or just work with audio on a daily basis. So it's called Audio Tools, and that is the final app of this episode. So with that said, if you'd like to leave feedback, you can do that by emailing me at iPadPossibilities@gmail.com and calling in to 209-542-iPad. Call in or leave your email. That'd be greatly appreciated. And if you want to support this show, just go to tppn.tv. That's tppn.tv, and clicking on the iPad Possibilities premium page. There you will get the premium podcast and all the information there. You can also go to the App Store for $2.99, purchase the iPad Possibilities podcast app. And with that said, you've been listening to the iPad Possibilities podcast on tppn.tv. This is Tim. I will talk to everyone again for the next episode.